welcome to the second game of the evening. Up this time is Azur Lane Crosswave. Um, so Azur Lane is a what is the best way of putting this? A personified battleship game. Surprisingly, or maybe not so surprising, there is more than one of these.
Yes.
Um, I'm imagining that the most famous of this is the Kantai collection.
That was like the original one, I think.
Right. Um, one of the big differences between that and Azur Lane here is where it comes from. Azur Lane was developed in China, and Kantai collection comes from Japan. And I do remember one of the big issues with Kantai collection is how, I suppose for a lack of a better term, imperial it is. Because it's got World War II era battleships in that, and that's a whole thing that's a lot of concentration in other Asian nations because, they were the victims of Japanese imperialism.
Yeah, Japan did some really bad shit in World War II.
I'm not exactly...
apparently in the gacha game, you start off primarily on the side of the equivalent of America and Britain, but in this game, your protagonist is from the equivalent of Japan, so who knows?
Well, that gets me into this specific game. Crosswave is a SR is what a I want to say it's a strategy role playing game.
No.
Okay, so it's just a proper role playing game.
No, it's like a combination of visual novel and then arena shooter type thing.
Okay,
like there are RPG elements, sort of like you raise your levels and get new and better equipment and stuff, but the actual combat segments are pretty short and like each battle you're supposed to end in 2 minutes. It's especially early in the game that it takes quite a while between battles in terms of there are a whole bunch of talking scenes a lot of the time.
Yeah, gotta say that's a bit unusual given the combination we have here, because this particular game was developed by, or at least in part by, our old nemesis Idea Factory and Compile Heart. Though this time it's actually a trio of developers along with a firm called Festula. Not exactly what other games they've worked on, but we're certainly familiar with two of those developers. No.
Yeah, the combat style in this is completely different from like
Mary Skelter or
Neptunia. Neptunia was the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah. Apparently, Fistilla has worked on a Neptunia game. It's the Super Dimension Neptune versus Sega Hard Girls collaboration. So yeah, they do have prior experience with this tag team, and I'm guessing that's a big reason why it's not an SRPG or an RPG like you'd expect out of Idea Factory and Compile Heart.
Again, I've never actually played Azur Lane, and that's going to color this somewhat because I think this game is really intentionally primarily selling to people who are already fans of the franchise and have their own favorite boat girls.
Sounds about right.
But I don't know what the combat is like in that, but I believe this is significantly different. Mostly what it is you get plunked on a map, a world map, and Chibi, main character icon, skates around the world map to find small treasure boxes and encounters. And then the encounters are either text encounters that you just watch the story scenario, which usually involves the same character art of the characters from the other game. Or it's a battle, which is you versus either mass-produced alien things or actual other characters. The battles are the goal for each battle, like the good conditions for getting a high rank on it include beating it in 120 seconds, so none of them are super long, but it's generally your team of up to 3 boat girls hovering around over an ocean scenario, shooting at other boat girls with equipped weapons and special attacks.
Okay.
Usually there's only 1 or 2 rounds in a battle. Maybe there are more later in the game. I don't know. Sorry, were you done with your introduction thing?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
especially since you got into it.
So yeah, the story of this one features the main story centers around Shimakaze, who is original to this game and not in the gacha game, and she's a destroyer, which means destroyers are generally, we will say, petite. And I don't know if the bunny girl ears, a lot of them seem to have some sort of weird feature. Like Shimakaze has bunny girl ears. Suruga, who is the one she ends up partnered with, has like bull horns, or ram horns. I assume that's a thing for the boat girls. But yeah, so it's the usual kind of like newcomer gets involved in major things, because there's aliens called sirens that I understand are in the plot of the gacha game too. I think this is like a sequel or something, time-wise. So yeah, you run into some of them, and I don't know, maybe not, and get involved in researching or hunting down more of the cubes of mysterious technology that they drop. The actual gameplay is simple but pretty fun, but there are a lot of story segments, and you'll get more out of those if you are either a naval history buff or preferably a fan of Azur Lane already, which I assume a lot of fans of Azur Lane already were probably already naval history buffs. Like, I got the joke where it was super awkward when the representatives from Iron Blood, which is the equivalent of Germany, and I forget what the equivalent of Britain is called, but when like their representatives were the Bismarck and the Hood, I got that joke. But that's about the limit of the jokes that I'm gonna get.
Right.
Because
well, there is another avenue here, because Azur Lane Crosswave does have an anime going on right now.
I didn't know that, but I guess that makes sense. So yeah, the different classes of boats between like destroyers and battleships and aircraft carriers and heavy and light cruisers have somewhat different play styles. Like, aircraft carriers can equip aircraft weapons, which are powerful but take a long time to recharge, and the bigger ships can use a guard when the slower ones use a dash to evade. In addition to your team of up to 3 playable characters that you can swap between at any time in battle, like literally just left or right on the D-pad, swaps between them. You can have a team of up to 3 support ships who don't actually physically show up, but like one of the ones that I've unlocked increases defense of your aircraft carrier type characters. So it matters for stuff like that too. I am going to have to knock the game a little bit, because the mechanic that it uses to unlock new ships, the A points, you get 20 A points for clearing a stage really well, at least early in the game. You get more later in the game, apparently, but I didn't get that far. So you don't get them super fast. The cheapest support ships to unlock are 50. Some of them are in the low 100s. The cheapest ship to unlock that was available was 500, I think, 400 or 500. And there are only 3 ships available to unlock at this point. I assume that increases as you go through the game, but For a game where I imagine part of it is like appealing to people's like favorite existing waifu boats from the other game, it seems like they'd want to make more characters available sooner. Like, or even if it was just having like multiple story routes for the different nations so that you could maybe get the ones from your nation sooner. I don't know. It's a little bit slow to be able to unlock and try new things. The Switch version does come with 2 DLC boats for free, as it were, or included in it, that are just paid DLC on Steam. That's Taiho, who is another Japanese ship, though she's an aircraft carrier. Suruga is a battleship, and Shimakaze is a destroyer. And the other one is the, I believe, equivalent of British ship, the Formidable, who I think is also an aircraft carrier. And they each come with a story scenario of their own, but those also unlock for free for use in other battles. Like, you don't get a third team member for the 3 that you can use by default. And they don't even mention unlocking it until 5 or 6 battles in, I think. And then you have access to a few other ships from equivalent of Japan normally, but the DLC, I've had Taiho equipped for a while. I haven't done the separate story missions for them. I was going to do that this morning, but I was wiped out with a headache that thankfully has gone away. And yeah, and there are like 4 more DLC ships available on the eShop, of which I have not bought any, because I'm not sure if I want to play more of this or not. And those are similar. I assume you get the ship immediately. Each one of them also comes with 3 support ships, but you have to pay A points to unlock the support ships. So I mean, it's nice that it's not gacha, but that means that there's not, like, you can't just join the game and then blow $5,000 to get your favorite boat wife.
No, but I will say that the DLC, at least on the Steam version, can be a bit pricey. Not
yeah, the Boat Girl packs are like $8 on Switch,
yeah.
which is kind of high for just a character and a story scenario. But it's also, again, compared to a gacha game, I have to think it's not that bad. And there are also one pack that has a special equipment thing that just doubles or triples your experience, I think. Doubles or triples. It increases it by 200% or something, but I'm not sure if that means, if it means like from 100% to 200% or like from 100% to 300%. And then the other one just has a butt ton of weapons, which the equipable weapons, you generally have 2 equipable weapons and then a special, and then you can have some support equipment. And you can improve and develop the equipable weapon separately, plus your characters level up with use. Actually, characters that you have unlocked get some experience too, not just the ones that you use, which is nice. But I assume that's not the primary way of powering them up. Also, there is a way at some point in the game to level break them so that they can level up. Instead of only leveling up to 100, they can level up to 200. And there's a way to, like, increase your affinity with your secretary ship, who's the one that appears on the main menu and, like, talks to you when you go between things. And I think you can still get married to them or something. I'm not joking about the boat wife.
We never joke about the boat wife.
So yeah, overall, I don't think it's a bad game, but I think if you're not a fan of Azur Lane, it might be a little bit hard to get into. It's getting to the point I'm playing where there have been like about as many battles as story scenes, which is nice. Or about as many battles as non-battle story scenes, but there are times when it's just like several story scenes in a row and no battle, and that's always a little bit unfortunate because the battles are actually kind of fun, even though they're short. Also, I had some complaints about some of the character design, but that's not really particular to this thing. That's just the waifu franchise. Specifically, I would really rather have a main character who does not look quite as young as Shimakaze, or if they do look as young as Shimakaze, they're wearing a little bit more clothes, because that is a really short dress. And it has kind of, it's not easy to tell this necessarily from the short things here, but the dress, it doesn't actually have like a front. It has more like a bib that's tucked in, so that you can like see a little bit more torso in the sides than I really feel a little bit comfortable with. I don't know. But honestly, most of them are fine for waifu designs. I don't know. And if you and the generally the increase in the size of the ship is an increase in the like age and proportion of the character. Although the freaking Nagato, who's like the Empress or something, is a battleship, and she looks about 12, so it's not guaranteed.
Ugh.
I don't know.
Anyway,
It's not a bad game if you're into it. I think I can recommend it. Okay.
well,
If not, if you don't have any interest in naval stuff, you probably won't get the most benefit out of it. I know, and I haven't actually looked at the price on Steam or anything, but on Switch the price is well, the deluxe edition or whatever that comes with, I think, all the DLC is like $70, and that's probably more than I would pay for it. But on the other hand, that can still be a good deal compared to a gacha game. So you know your own preferences regarding or ability to resist spending money on gacha. So
right. So anything else?
not really. The music is okay. I honestly turned it down mostly after a while because I was doing other stuff at the same time. There are voice clips for for significant story scenes and stuff, but they are all in Japanese, and they are also in well, particularly given our main character, they are in kind of high-pitched little girl, which is not the most easy thing to understand all the time.
Anyway,
I think that's all I got. Does you guys have any questions?
No.
Me neither.
Concerns? That's just a, oh boy, we've got the 12-year-old who's a 1,000-year-old dragon situation here.
Well, they do. It is an interesting character design because the gun boat parts are still very large, but yeah, she looks very young. Actually, I think she looks maybe a little older than Shimakaze, but I don't know. Maybe that's because Shimakaze is doing the whole huge forehead thing.
Anyway, so that'll about do it for Azure Lane Crosswave here. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty Fan will be covering Buddy Simulator 1984.